Amara sat by the small window of her tiny rented apartment, staring at the fading orange sky as the sun melted into the horizon. The room was quiet except for the soft breathing of her little daughter asleep on the worn-out mattress. Life had not been kind to her. Just 3 years ago, she thought she had everything: love, marriage, and a family. But betrayal had a cruel way of breaking her, leaving her with nothing but scars and responsibility. Her ex-husband had abandoned her when she needed him most. He had promised her a forever love, whispered sweet words, and made her feel like she was his world. But when her pregnancy came with struggles and bills began to pile up, he vanished, leaving her to face the world alone. Amara carried the bitterness like a shadow, but every day she reminded herself she had to stay strong, for her daughter, for her own sanity. Life was now a cycle of hustling. She worked odd jobs, sometimes cleaning houses, sometimes selling vegetables at the market. She was no stranger to humiliation. People whispered about her behind her back, some mocking her for being a single mother who couldn't keep her man. Others judged her when she refused advances from men who only saw her as desperate, but Amara learned to lift her chin and walk with dignity. One rainy evening, as she hurried home from the market carrying a basket of leftover tomatoes, she noticed a man sitting on the steps of a deserted shop. He was dressed in ragged clothes, his hair untidy, his shoes worn out, and his head bowed as if the world had pressed him into the ground. People passed him without a glance, some even sneering, but something about him caught Amara's heart. She slowed her steps, wondering why his sadness felt familiar, almost like her own. He looked up when the drizzle turned into heavier rain. Their eyes met briefly. His eyes were surprisingly gentle, almost soulful, though his face showed the exhaustion of someone who had seen too much. Amara tightened her grip on her basket, torn between fear and compassion. "Are you hungry?" she asked softly, her voice nearly drowned by the rain. The man blinked as if he hadn't expected anyone to speak to him. Slowly he nodded. Without thinking further, Amara opened her basket and handed him a few tomatoes. "It's not much, but it's something," she said. The man smiled faintly, a smile that seemed to carry gratitude deeper than words. "Thank you," he whispered. His voice was calm, smooth, and strangely comforting. That night Amara couldn't stop thinking about him. Why did she feel connected to a beggar she had only seen once? The next evening she saw him again at the same spot. This time she bought him bread. The third day she carried a flask of tea. Soon it became routine. She would finish her work, check on her daughter, and then pass by to share something small with him. Days turned into weeks. Amara learned that his name was Daniel. He didn't talk much about his past, only saying life had taken everything away from him. She didn't push further, she knew the pain of the past too well. What mattered was the kindness in his heart. Sometimes they would sit quietly together, listening to the city sounds. Other times they laughed over small things. Amara found herself drawn to him not out of pity but out of genuine affection. He listened to her without judgment, unlike others who mocked her struggles. Daniel looked at her not as a broken woman, but as someone strong, someone beautiful. Romance blossomed slowly, almost shyly. One evening, after sharing tea under a broken shop roof, Daniel looked at her and said, "You deserve more than this world has given you." His hand brushed against hers, warm and reassuring. Amara felt her heart race. For so long she had closed herself off to love, afraid of being hurt again. But with Daniel, her walls slowly melted. The first time he kissed her, it was gentle, hesitant, as if he feared breaking her. Her lips trembled under his, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, feeling the warmth of his embrace and the truth in his touch. That night she lay awake smiling, feeling something she thought she had lost forever: hope. Months passed and their bond deepened. He adored her daughter, who giggled whenever he made funny faces. Amara started dreaming again of a family, of love, of a future. Against all odds, she married him. It wasn't a wedding with luxury or guests, just a simple exchange of vows in a small church. Yet to Amara it was the most beautiful day of her life. She felt seen, cherished, and wanted. Life was still hard, but they faced it together. They rented a small house, shared chores, laughed often, and comforted each other in the dark nights. Their romance was not built on wealth but on trust, simplicity, and tenderness. Daniel would sometimes surprise her with flowers he picked by the roadside. She, in turn, cooked his favorite meals even when money was tight. Their intimacy grew, soft caresses at dawn, stolen kisses in the kitchen, and nights where their love burned away the loneliness they had carried for years. But not everything was as it seemed. Amara started noticing odd things about Daniel. Sometimes he disappeared for hours and returned with a mysterious calm. Other times, his knowledge of business and finance shocked her. He spoke like a man who had lived another life, someone educated and refined, not just a beggar. One afternoon, when she was cleaning, she found a wallet hidden in his old bag. Inside were credit cards, all bearing his name, Daniel Kingsley. She froze, confused. How could a beggar own such things? When she confronted him that evening, he looked at her with sorrow. "Amara, there are things I haven't told you," he admitted. Her heart pounded. "Who are you really, Daniel?" For days he avoided answering until one morning everything changed. A black car stopped outside their humble home and men in suits stepped out. Amara panicked, thinking they were debt collectors, but to her shock, they bowed slightly when Daniel came out. The truth unraveled. Daniel was no ordinary man. He was the heir of a vast business empire, a billionaire who had walked away from his wealth after betrayal and greed tore his family apart. He had chosen to live humbly, away from the lies of the rich world, to find peace and authenticity. Amara felt the ground collapse beneath her. The man she thought she knew, the beggar she loved, was a billionaire. She felt both betrayed and foolish. "You lied to me," she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. "All this time you hid who you were." Daniel tried to hold her. "I wasn't testing you, Amara. I was searching for someone real, someone who would love me for me, not my money, and I found you." But Amara pulled back, her heart heavy. Love and anger clashed inside her. How could he hide such a truth? How could she trust him now? For days she avoided him, torn between the man she loved and the secret he had kept. Yet Daniel never stopped showing his devotion. He reminded her of the nights they had shared, the laughter, the tenderness, the way he loved her daughter like his own. He wasn't asking for forgiveness for being rich, he was begging her to see the man beneath the billions. Slowly her anger softened. She remembered his ragged clothes, his lonely eyes the first night she saw him. That was the man she loved, the one who had nothing but gave her everything. Money didn't change that truth. Their love rekindled, stronger than before. Amara eventually accepted the new life he offered, though she reminded him often of how betrayed she had felt. Daniel, in turn, promised never to hide from her again. Together, they built a new chapter, not defined by wealth but by trust, respect, and the bond they had formed when the world thought they had nothing. In the grand mansion where they now lived, Amara sometimes still sat by the window, her daughter laughing in the gardens, Daniel holding her hand. She had gone from betrayal to hope, from struggle to love, from despair to a future brighter than she ever dreamed. And though part of her would always remember the sting of his secret, her heart knew this truth. She had not fallen for a billionaire. She had fallen for a man who, even in rags, had given her the richest gift of all, love.